dreams are fuel, but you're not flying because you can't make the engine work.
Dan Trachtenberg is the director of films such as 10 Cloverfield Lane and Prey. His newest film, Predator Killer of Killers, is available to stream right now on Hulu. Killer of Killers imagines a world in which the Predator visited humanity through the ages and fought some of the most skilled warriors alive. Dan is also the director of Predator Badlands, which will be out in theaters on November 7th, 2025. Dan, thanks for chatting with me today.
I'm really excited to be here.
In Predator Killer of Killers, the Predator visits Scandinavia in 841 AD, Japan in 1609, and the Atlantic Ocean with the U.S. Navy in 1942. What was it that made you want to tackle these specific time periods?
On the one hand, obviously, a lot of us, in thinking of the what if scenario of Predator, some of the main ones come bubble to the surface. I really was wanting to do something unexpected, stories that would allow us to tell emotional tales that had conflict, even without the Predator, but also engage with the aspect of the Predator franchise that is this is a creature that comes to study who is alpha and analyzing who is alpha. And so I think the first one that came to mind was, in thinking about feudal Japan, is just a cool era. The pop culture idea of ninja v samurai, that all of us fantasize about over the years, and the Predator analyzing that. And there's always a thing of who would win in a fight, and when you train martial arts as a where you always kind of would be like, wherever you like, karate could be kempo and judo would be, like whatever
Right.
whatever you train, you would always argue with friends, or and when you watch movies and you see Bruce Lee would Jeet Kune Do would beat this or that, so there's something in Predator doing that, and then of course getting to a place where it's like about brothers trying to prove themselves, and a father that's forcing them to pitting them against each other, and I just love stories where characters break cycles, and then the Viking era was just another one of just like immediately comes to mind of really warriors to be reckoned with, and the Predator needing to contend with them, and them needing to contend with the Predator, and honing in on a story about a mom and a son. Like, and at some point, I can't think of the order of everything, but like shield, sword, bullet, and shield as both a protective instrument, and in this movie also a offensive instrument,
Right.
and with a character that is trying to protect by attacking, and thinking that will solve her problems, and all that stuff is just in the soup to create the stories. And then World War II was like thinking a lot about World War I or World War II, and Predator versus soldiers from a different time period because of the original Predator, but soldiers, and like, but I couldn't crack like what is that really? And then came the like, oh my gosh, wait a second, who were the great soldiers of those wars? Fucking fighter pilots,
Right.
And what if the Predator never left the ship? What if what we always see on the ground happens in the air, and we have the incredible wish fulfillment and insanity of those planes in a dogfight with the Predator spaceship, and oh my God, people were not expecting that to happen.
Prior to Prey, there had been 4 Predator movies plus 2 Aliens versus Predator films. And I am curious, in Star Wars, for instance, there are entire departments dedicated to making sure the universe consistency is maintained. I'm curious, as you're crafting these stories and also Predator Badlands, how much does Predator lore factor into your decision making, or do you feel like you have been entrusted? You and your filmmaking team have been entrusted with creating the Predator lore.
When I signed on to Prey, and then they gave the thumbs up, they gave the green light, I was like, all right, give me the Bible, I'm ready to see it. Let's see what's the And there was none, and there was
Yeah.
no Bible, there was no person, there was
Right.
no, that like,
It's just some guy named Frank
yeah.
who works there and loved the movies,
And not even that. And not even
Right.
that. Yeah, I would have been
Right.
very excited to meet Frank at the time. But eventually I did meet Alec Gillis, um, who has been a part of the Predator franchise since the beginning, having worked under Stan Winston, and then eventually him and Tom Woodruff formed their own company, ADI, um, and he was doing our Predator stuff, and he,
Special
since he had
effects, to be clear.
his
Special
his
effects.
our
Yeah.
right our practical, our special effects, from suit building to prop making when it came to Predator things. So he had a bit of the Bible. He had the aesthetic and what the
Right.
physical object language stuff was, and so even when we made Killer of Killers, an animated film where nothing needed to be built physically in the real world, I still had him on as our advisor and designer, and all of the Predator designs were originated through his shop. And the fun of that was that he's no longer hampered by needing to build something that someone could be inside. So we got to really let loose on the designs, and make them the alien creatures they want to be, rather than the alien creatures that they only can be,
Right.
because of limitations. So um, yeah, Alec has really been a touchstone, and then from there, starting with Alec, to language, that is a big part of Badlands and a little part of Killer of Killers, from the visual runic Yautja language that we see to the spoken word. We found someone to develop a language, because the what's been in the Predator movies since then has just been, this is what looks cool at the time.
Mm.
None of it actually made any coherent sense, and I just wanted to start to make it sense.
Got it.
Um,
So you are helping essentially to create the lore, like with these
Yeah, but
movies. Sorry,
I
yeah.
go to what's there. I go
Yeah.
to the comics I've read and what's on the extended universe and fan sites and people that have kind of collected things and named things over the years, and see what's stuck, and what felt cool to me, to make sure I'm honoring to some degree what people have been attracted to, like me, when I've nerded out over it. And But also have tried very hard to not get seduced by delving too deeply into prioritizing, something that our mutual friend Jeff Canad always says, that is always I've always agreed with, and have spoken to as well, of like prioritizing lore over story. There's a big difference between lore and story,
Yeah.
um, and as evident in Killer of Killers, like, certainly we now know more about those creatures, that race, the Yautja, than we ever have before, but it's all really in service of a really adrenalized thrill ride, and not meant to be overly presumptive of people's interests and the inner workings of the culture and political system of an alien race.
Since you mentioned the look of the predators, I am just curious. We see the predators during 4 different time periods during the movie, and they look different in each of the time periods. I'm curious, like, what were some of the changes or notable things you wanted to be reflected in how the predators appeared as the movie went on?
I mean, on the one hand, I just wanted to reassert that, like, I don't believe that, and this is how I sort of always feel about sci-fi creatures in general. I've always been a little bit bugged when you go to, like, Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet, and they all look exactly the same, except some of them have a little bit of a gray fur and some of them more
Right.
brown. Um, and
Why does that bother you?
Because it's not how, I don't believe that's how planets work, and that's not, certainly not how our planet works. We
You think
all
there'd
look
be like a vast diversity of
Yeah,
like
we all look
appearances,
very
right?
different. It's not,
Right.
and for predators, it had traditionally been like the mandibles look a little different, and people like dig in and dissect, and it's like it's barely different, um, and so I obviously wanted to continue to, em, and embrace that concept, but also love when just want to make sure the aesthetic of them match spirit of the time and the feeling of the time. And certainly, like for the Vikings, I knew that because it was the earliest that we've explored, and so wanted to make sure that his technology was, of course, still incredibly advanced and far superior to anything that Earth has seen, but still feel like prior to now what we've seen in Prey.
Right.
So it's
Because it's
size.
the farthest in the past.
It's the furthest in
Right.
the past. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So its size and scale was a big deal. Like I really wanted to make sure it was the largest that we've had to contend with, and its technology was, down to a, single piece of technology, as
Sonic
opposed
boom
to,
weapon.
yeah,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like, what would be very uninteresting is it just has a shoulder cannon that just pew 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 picks off everyone one by one, and that's the end of that. Um, and say this the Predator in the Sword chapter just wanting to embrace that it what's always been apparent for the Predator is that there is a similarity to a ninja. There's a similarity to someone with gadgets that moves through stealthily, using trickery, and so allowing that be a instead of spy for a spy, a stealth for stealth situation. There was something fun. There was a drawing that Alec had with a Predator that had no dreads, um, that was started, in just from him being around the makings of Predators, um, and he's seeing them so often before they implant the dreads and how cool they look, um, and it felt like our pilot, who
From the
doesn't
third
need
storyline, right?
for
The
the third
1940
storyline, our
storyline. Yeah.
pilot Predator, the dreads have always been known to be more than just hair follicle, but also a sensory organ. And if
Mm.
you're in the ship, you don't need that same kind of thing. And perhaps he's kind of plugging into the ship in some regard. And he had this cool eye patch thing that, as a mask, that felt connected to the way he'd be functioning in the spaceship. So it came from what we wanted to be in the story and what we wanted the feel to be, but also from seeing designs that have been around, the office, so to speak, and realizing, oh my God, being inspired by that and plugging them into what our needs were narratively.
Yeah, the one from 1942 looks, I think, the most different than
Mm.
any other Predator that we've seen. So yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
looked kind of like in rough shape. I'm gonna be honest. Like he looks like
Uh,
he's looked very exposed in the vehicle, but I
mm.
guess he doesn't need the armor because he's in a gigantic
That's right.
hulking spaceship. So
That's right. That's right.
uh, so one thing you and I have discussed in the past is how to balance action with character development. I love the fact that the movie is basically nonstop action for most of its runtime. From this point forward, we're going to spoil Predator Killer of Killers. I am curious how you thought about balancing exposition or character development with action. Like, what was your approach and thinking? Were you ever worried that there wasn't enough explanation of what was going on with these characters?
The whole thing of making a movie is worrying where it's too much or too little, constantly. And the one thing I just wanted to ensure is that once again, we'd established our characters in conflict prior to Predator arriving, which was tricky with our time limitations, having to tell a 20-minute story. The real, overwhelming task of the movie that was the reason for making it, was realizing that, not all anthologies are Twilight Zone. There's also Pulp Fiction, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so I wanted to insanely, make sure that each story felt like a full meal, felt conclusive, but that also there's still narrative to be completed in the final act of the movie when they all come together. There definitely was a challenge in trying to figure out how can we establish enough to care in the opening minutes before Predator shows up, and still do action scenes. Each one of them has an action scene before Predator shows up, um, and then also have time to deliver the promise of the premise of Predator showing up, wanting there to be story explored in that final act. If they all characters had completely arced before then, there'd be nothing left. And so, uh, yeah, that was the big challenge, and we had a great screenwriter in Micho Rotare, and um, in helping us get there.
Let's talk about some of the specific action sequences in the film. And I guess I'm just going to name the character, and I want you to just tell me one moment from that character story, action wise, that you're particularly proud of, and kind of how you came up with it, or something interesting about developing that moment. So let's just start with Viking warrior Ursa. What's one moment from Ursa's storyline that you were particularly proud of, and tell us a little bit about what into it.
It's hard to not say the oneer. An incredible technical challenge, and kind of came from the technical challenge, as you've heard me say so many times when we've talked about this kind of thing. Like, we knew we needed to do a raid on Zoran's camp, but we didn't really have the budget and affordability to build that asset if we were to really do a full fight in the entire encampment. So couldn't be lame, and I really wanted to show what Ursa was capable of. Also, she's so single-minded that it felt like there's something to her, just like barreling towards her goal, barreling towards that thing, and just felt like a really, like, if we treat it like the running back, or I don't even know. I'm not like equipped enough to talk. The guy who catches the ball from a kickoff and has to run it back. Is that the running back?
You're
The
asking the
receiver?
wrong guy. Yeah, the
Yeah.
receiver.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, we're two losers.
Yes.
Look at us.
This is two film nerds here.
Yeah. She starts at one end of the field,
Right.
and it has to charge all the way
Right.
forward, and the camera will always be at her back. So we're in a limited perspective, which allowed us to build only what we aren't seeing every facet of
Mhm.
that set, but you don't care. Like, you feel like this is exactly how it's supposed to be. And the grace note at the end of her jamming her shield in before those doors close and grabbing that guy, and
Yeah.
was, I just love figuring out all the pieces that set piece needed, and so many cool people came up with incredible choreography there. And was really exciting to also to showcase an unusual weapon in ways that Marvel could not, but we could. And yeah, so that's my favorite bit of choreography from the Viking chapter. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm just gonna share with you my favorite, just so you know. This is
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
This
I
won't be in the
definitely.
interview.
When I made a crazy action movie, we're both
Yeah.
action fans. I want to know what you thought, for sure. Yeah,
My favorite part was when she actually kills the predator, and how she does it, which is, I think they're underwater and they're struggling, and the whole like underwater sequence is incredible. And then she sees that he's about to fire off the weapon. She gets the shield in front of it, and I think she realizes that she can like position him so that he's going to be impaled by the spikes
yeah,
behind him.
yep,
And then when I realized, like, that was because the whole time when I'm watching this, I'm wondering, how are these predators going to get killed, because they're really freaking hard to kill,
yeah,
right? And that's the whole point of all these movies, is they're extremely hard to kill. And so try to figure out, like, what are they going to do to actually kill these things.
yeah.
And so when I realized, oh, it's going to be the moment when he like flies backward into the thing, incredible. I thought that was amazing. All right.
That came from, originally, there was when it was a longer tale, there was a scene between her and her father, and they were talking about setting, like, anchoring down somewhere, and then her later talking about what then became, there's a monster inside of me, which I love, and I'm glad we ended up there. But originally it was like, there's an anchor around my heart that's keeping me in this place that I'm trying to move on from. That's why I need revenge. And so that was all trying to create meaning out of the end kill. And that's why Anchor even was there to begin with. Um, and we lost that, but we ended up still with the cool kill.
Yeah, yeah. Kenji and Kiyoshi in the Japanese 1609 storyline.
And I should mention, this is the one chapter where we went to get some help from a stunt coordinator that I worked with on Prey, a guy named Jeremy Marinas, who works with 8711. I believe he did Ballerina as well. As he's worked on a bunch of the John Wick movies. I know you dug Ballerina. I haven't heard your review yet, um, Jeremy and some of his team, I wanted to bring on to ensure we were authentic, and as many areas as we could. And so all of the holds and the way that they use the swords and the weapons of choice and a lot of those fights, there's incredibly fun bits of authenticity if someone has an eye for that stuff. But also in really wanting to rise to the occasion and make sure that we were doing justice to these two well noted and well regarded and rendered martial art forms. So there's so much that I love. I love the silent fight in the bell tower. I would say the moment that I'm the most proud of, if only because it was such a challenge to figure out, was taking a note from your book, the way that they kill the predator. Because we really struggled in that chapter to come with like and it has to be cool the way that that's kind of what all the movies build to. Um, and there were a lot of ideas that were that's cool. That's not meaningful, but that's a cool thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And it
And I
needed to be both cool and meaningful.
yeah, I really just it's like what's the and it suddenly occurred to me that if what we're doing is saying that like it's about them coming together
Yeah.
that defeats it, can we build that to be suspenseful? Can we build that end move? Just letting that be the thing. And we built something that is actually technically there's a hole in the armor. There's there's spatially there's a part of it that doesn't make the most sense. I hate to even say this in the like when we're not like years after the release and to highlight this. But it's so what you want to see and so operatic and musical, you know, that it doesn't matter. It just feels cathartic for it to happen the way that it happens. And the filmmaking of it, the way it's cut and the way it's scored and all that stuff, what make you not even think too much about some of the spatial issues with it. Unless maybe you're about to say you are the viewer that would point it
Yeah,
out.
no, I
But
don't.
no,
I
it's
did
great.
not perceive any of that at all.
And it's there was a challenging thing because when I pitched it, and like it's a hard, understandably, there was a lot of like, but wouldn't that and how can and it's a long time till it's in a place where it proves to people that it's successful.
Sorry, what were people's concerns with it? I don't understand.
Well, there's a lot of physical logistics to how do they know the predator is alive? Like, how is he? Where is he standing? Where is it? And how is it? And how are they? And
right, because essentially they both attack him while he's invisible. Right?
Yes.
And so it's like, how would they know he's invisible?
It's
how they
smashed
know
against the tree.
Right.
We didn't always have it leave a green mark in the tree, and if we leave a green mark, and the leaf, and that was an idea that helped seal it. But technically, there's still a part that doesn't make sense, and that to do what they do, that one has to go on either side of it. But it's also right by a tree, so how can someone go on the other side but the tree? But you don't. It doesn't.
Didn't even think about that.
Some people in like think more logically in the team. Some people and like you. But movies are dreams, they're not all physical space and logic, and you have to let it feel, and so just that it plays as well as it does, only because I was freaked out and as much as I want to believe in myself, it's like you feel I was like, oh my God, what if it's true? It's a fair point, some of the things about it, and what if it doesn't work, But it really does feel incredibly gratifying when that moment happens. So that's the highlight of that chapter for me. And there's plenty of awesome in that chapter. But what is your favorite?
I mean, two very small moments in that. First, two very small moments. One is, like you said, the fight in the bell tower when he catches the guy's head. Like he stops the guy's head from hitting the thing, and that was very nice. And then one of the guys rings the bell, and he's like, "Okay, F it, like I don't care about this anymore." That was very funny.
Yeah.
And then when the leaf falls on the predator, I was just like, "That's so badass," because I mean, what you had to do in the movie is really difficult because you not only need to tell 3 Predator stories in 3 or technically 4 Predator stories in 4 different time periods, but, like, you need to have each set of characters in these time periods understand what the Predator is. Now, like, in a modern day, like, people see a invisible guy, they're like, "Oh, yeah, I saw that on TikTok or whatever," like, that's but, like, if you're from
I saw that
892
on TikTok.
somebody has an invisible cloak, whatever. Who gives a
Right.
crap? Like
Right.
I see stuff that would make our ancestors lose their mind, Dan.
Right. Right.
But somebody from 841 AD needs to see the Predator and like understand what it is and like figure out how to fight it. And you need to do that every single time. So you used different ways of revealing that to people, and like the leaf falling down and touching the
And not
Predator's
not
body.
only
I thought was
that, not only that, you're reminding me of the other challenge is that it not be a chore for the audience to be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. We've seen this. I don't want to have
right.
to like watch this guy realize a thing that I
Yeah.
already know. Oh, you're gonna discover that it's cold, that it sees heat, and
Right.
oh, cover yourself with mud. I've seen it. Like I know all these beats,
You
but we
need
also
the
need
audience to be
someone.
delighted by
That's
the
right.
discovery, right?
But
Yeah.
also, there's a lot of people that have never seen a Predator movie
Right?
before, and we have to make sure that it makes complete sense even to those people.
Yeah.
And it is incredibly um, daunting. Yeah.
Tall order. Tall order. All right, last one. 1942.
Oh my gosh. My favorite action beat of a chapter filled with just awesome. I mean, I would say that the piece that's in the trailer of going through the guy and ripping him out of his plane, personal interest to you and I, the scream of that guy that I'd love to become the new Wilhelm. It was done by a mutual friend, Alex Albrecht. And it's an iconic scream. It's insane, his scream. But my true personal bit, the first image that we had concept art rendered for before we had even written the thing was a plane like going through the city, like trench running through
Yeah.
Casablanca. And it's something that I would never decide to do in live action. I think it would be incredibly silly in live action. But I was delighted to be able to do something that looked so cool, felt so cool. I've said this a couple of us, but I think you'll agree that like seeing Akira was a really pivotal moment of my childhood, and there's of course that moment in the beginning, in the bike chase in the beginning when he like jumps off of the rim on the tire to kick like a thing that like I think Hard Target kind of has a moment like that, and
Yeah.
but like it's really goofy in live action, but in Akira it's so cool. And so there was a huge part of me that wanted to not restrict myself like I would in live action, and find new fun in the animated medium. So that element to that, but I love silent, and when it goes really quiet and he's silently after Vandy's death, and he's falling to catch back up to the Predator, uh, uh, and the end, the way it all builds, and the end musically always really stirs me when I watch it. But what was your favorite bit?
Oh, I mean, I really like just the way that it concluded with him figuring out how to defeat. Like, what's great about the movie, in my opinion, is just when you think on multiple occasions, like just when you think, oh, this is the end,
Hmm.
something else happens that makes you feel like, oh, wow, this is actually just the journey to the end. And that kind of happened in that portion where he
Yeah,
kind of flies into the uh all the explosions going off. I'm like, oh, this is how he's gonna get the Predator. Like I was thinking, this is how he's gonna get him. But it's like, no, you still managed to give him like a little triumphant moment at the end there.
yeah,
Final question, Dan. This is a full spoiler for Killer of Killers.
yeah.
Obviously, the big final moment in this movie is inspired, according to your letterbox list, by Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you see uh this whole like just vats and vats of people who they have collected over the years and placed in suspended animation. And it is revealed that one of them is Naru from Prey, the protagonist of Prey. Now I feel very torn about this
Oh, interesting.
because
Yes.
on the one hand, it's exciting that it's the Dan Trachtenberg Predator universe. We might get to see Naru again. The implication is we might see Naru again in some format, either in an animated film or a comic book or whatever. Another Prey 2, whatever it is. So that's all very exciting. On the other side of that, it's like, man, it kind of is a bummer that after everything that Naru went through, the implication is she got scooped up and she's in this, frozen cryopod somewhere. And I guess I'm curious, like how, because the implication is like all this stuff happened after the end of Prey, and it didn't end well for Naru. So, do you feel like in any way the ending of this movie kind of cancels out the kind of fairly triumphal ending of Prey, Dan?
I hear you in you really poked a wound there, because
Good.
I think a lot of people our age um were deeply disturbed. I was deeply disturbed watching the beginning of Karate Kid Part 2
Yes.
to find that Allie has dumped him for a quarterback. It was like
Yeah.
nothing was more depressing than hearing that. There's a lot that can happen to a character before they even end up in
Mm.
that.
So you're
That
saying Naru
what
had many fun
who
adventures?
know or I mean, what we do not have in the movie is a time uh uh, period listed
Right.
as where the ending takes
Right.
place, and I've definitely seen people assuming a time that is not the case.
Mm.
Um so uh I think really what it promises is, for me, you're saying, oh, what a sad outcome that she gets taken, but I think it's a promise of um, more adventure. And,
Right.
and the other thing I would take the opportunity to give you a little exclusive, because I posted a letterboxed
Yes.
list of movies that inspired
Yes. Which
killer
I
killers.
reviewed before talking to you today.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Because you just that's why
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
referencing it. But on that list, I put Best in Show.
Yes.
And I didn't want to. It's annoying because it's like it's a big reference for me, but I did not want to have to explain it, because to do so would just spoil the movie. So, to your ones of listeners, I'd love to explain.
Wow.
It's
Calling
a
me out, man.
callback to a joke that was made prior to recording. Everyone's gonna think I'm an asshole, but it must be said that was Dave's joke he made
Uh-huh.
to me
Uh-huh.
before we
Yeah.
were recording. Do
Nailed
not
it.
throw me under the bus, Dave.
Nailed it.
Um,
Nailed it.
but no, the thing that I think I even said this on a TRS review of the movie, many years ago. The thing I loved about Best in Show is it's a sports movie. It's a competition movie. By the end, it becomes that genre, that format. And usually in a sports movie, you've got your team or your character, and you are rooting for them. But when you're watching the movie, you're falling in love with the whole variety of. You don't think you're in a sports movie. You're just watching lovable, hilarious. When you're laughing with characters, you bond to them, and I think in a very potent way. And then all of a sudden, the end of Best in Show, suddenly you're like, wait, someone's got to win this thing. And now I'm like, I've never cared so much in a movie where I do not feel at all assured about the outcome. So many sports movies, you feel very assured about what the
Mhm.
outcome. It's just, how is it going to reach that outcome? Best in Show is like, oh my god, I've never felt more tense. So part of I've always wanted to chase that in a non comedic genre, and so part of the inspiration, and the pulse of this movie was like, you're going to bond with all three of these characters and not know that at some point you're actually going to have to be
Right.
rooting for or caring about, are one of them going to kill the other. And in Hunger Games, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I can't remember what Battle Royale does, So maybe it does do the same thing. I can't recall, but Hunger Games, like you have your leads, like you have your main characters and you're with them. You're not like it would have been. This is sort of like a potent idea of like, what if you bonded with all of the characters in the Hunger Games? What if you deal with all of them? And now they're forced to fight. And how does that make you feel? So anyway, that's the Best in Show reference.
Yeah, but then you get to see them all perform. So in a way, and celebrate how good the performances are. So in a way, perhaps it's more like a Mighty Wind, Dan Trachtenberg.
I never saw a Mighty Wind, so I don't get the reference.
That's nice.
But I remember it. I mean, I remember. Yeah.
All his movies are basically the same. They're all just leading up to a big performance, essentially. But yeah, Best in Show is probably my favorite one of those. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, Dan Trachtenberg is the director of Predator Killer of Killers, which is streaming right now on Hulu. He's also the director of Predator Badlands, coming out in November of 2025. Dan, thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thanks for having me, Dave. So cool.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.